number one fan. I'm your number one fan. Gotta understand, I got a plan. Go for what you want, might be what you thought. You gotta take a chance. Gotta understand, I'm your number one fan. Number one fan.
You're watching another, it's going to be a great edition here on KSN Podcast. It's episode 4 on the Kurt Social Network, and I'm your host, Kurt the Magnificent. Hello, everyone. Tonight, we got something really good coming up. Life, beginnings, future, moving on. It's something that is going to be dear to me, something that might tear me up at the same time, might tear you up, but it's going to be a journey that we're about to have with someone coming on here tonight here on the Kurt Social Network Podcast. My guest is my mentor. I played basketball growing up, and he was right there to teach the game of basketball for me. He also got me one of my best coaching jobs. I coached at Alexander Hamilton High School. He got me into a couple of other basketball, different things going on with basketball. I'll never forget a quick story real quick. Lehman College, and I don't know if he remembers this, but he knew the head coach there, who's still there actually, Coach Schulman. Shout out to Coach Schulman. And I remember he got me a chance to get a tryout with Coach Schulman. I almost went there in Lehman. But I had some other things I had to do to kind of finish up to get there. I didn't get there, but I did build a great relationship with Coach Schulman throughout that time. But this person right here is going to give his story about his journey throughout. And a lot of you know him if you're from the Central Westchester area, Elmsford, Greenburgh, White Plains. And this is a great, great person, and I love him dearly. He's like a second father to me. And let's give a hand for, again, my mentor, a great person, Mr. Wayne Bass.
Hey, Kurt.
Okay,
brother.
I'm sorry, man. I'm like crying right now.
Listen, man, it's a privilege to be called. It's an honor for you to say those things about me, and for you to to call me your mentor. It's just a beautiful thing. As I've got, we all get older, and I've gotten older at retirement age now. Can't believe it, but brother, having you in my life, as a friend, ultimately, because we're friends.
Yes.
Has been one of the greatest things in my life. So,
Wayne, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for what you have done, helping me with my life, shaping a lot of other lives with the younger people growing up or people around you. He's nicknamed the Fish. His brothers are Bass, so I guess they all were called Fish. But this person right here I'm about to talk to, with the story we're about to get to, he's going to give us a story from a fish standpoint, from the beginning to the end. So Wayne, can we get started with the beginning? Elmsford, that's where you grew up and born and raised, right?
Everybody knows Elmsford. I'm all Elmsford. Everybody knows I'm all in on Elmsford, always have been. Elmsford, and this comes from the love that Elmsford has always shown me, right? I try to reflect on that. I've had others say, why you love Elmsford so much? Why you love Payne Street so much? Almost in a negative manner, they say that. But you know what? I just have love, from, the candy store on the corner of Abbott and Cabot, which was when I went there was Mr. Cheatham and Mr. Spates owned it, to when Mr. Lewis owned it. It's just everybody always gave me love, from the families there and the community raised you, right? Parents raise you and the community raise you, because you're not under your parents, under your mom's skirt or within earshot of them all the time. We had neighbors around us. You know, and if you weren't doing right, somebody was going to call you on it, right? Or call your parents on it, or make sure that you're doing the right thing. And truthfully, even the brothers on the so-called corner who might have been doing some things that'll be a little illicit at the, you know what I'm saying?
You know,
They wouldn't let me hang out there, brother.
Right.
You know, I come down there like, nah, Wayne, nah, this ain't for you, bro. Go back up the street. So, you know, they wouldn't let me hang out. You know, they wouldn't let me do certain things. And then I can remember certain individuals saying, yo, man, you got a nice, things you can do, man. You smart, you could do stuff. And I believed them, man. I don't know why, but I believed them.
Wayne, you're telling the story that probably a lot of other kids growing up in our area have went through. And just off that right there, Payne Street back then, you know, talk about that a little bit. Give us a little story of your memories that you had, like 70s and 80s.
I just say it was a community of love, because you know, you look at the way Payne Street is set up, you can see that we've been isolated, right?
Yes.
You know, as I've grown older, I've learned some things. I've looked at some maps. I've been involved with some looking at some public documentation of the mapping of the area. And we're definitely isolated, and I believe, and you know, I'll say I believe, but I believe it was done purposely, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, at one side on the what I'll call the north side of Payne Street, it all ends in dead ends.
Yes.
And it goes all the way to the top of the hill. There's a paper street. By paper street meaning that at one time they were planning a street down there, right? A street to go parallel to Payne Street. That was never built. So the isolation that created by creating those dead ends, Payne Street is one way in, one way out. You know, you go either two-way in or
two-way,
you know, one side or the other.
Yeah.
And that was it. And so we were isolated. We were also in a community that is technically Greenburgh, not Elmsford, even though we have Elmsford addresses, most of us.
Right.
So that also thwarts your voting power, right? Because they split our district, man. They split us up. So there's a lot to it. But ultimately, you know, us being together, growing up together, our families growing up together, most of our families, those who were, you know, we got here in the early 60s. I was born in 63. I think we got here in 59 or 60 from the Marble Hill projects is where my older brother Kevin and Leslie were when they were younger with my parents. I was born here. But when, you know, we come up from the Bronx, a lot of the other families also came up from that area. You know, we came together and we did what we had to do, politically, sports wise, academically.
Yes.
You know, Payne Street boasts doctors. There's doctors that grew up there. There's professional athletes that grew up there.
Yes. Yes.
You know, whatever it is across the world, lawyers. You know, we have everybody in that area, and you know how many is a couple hundred homes?
Yeah.
Something in the area, man. There's something about us. We always had that fight, the struggle to get out, and we do what we had to do. So nothing but love here, man.
Definitely. And it seemed like throughout the years and the history, even going back to the schooling, you know, of Grady and Alexander Hamilton, it just seemed like it's been so many great people to come out. Not just we're known for athletes, we're also known for other different type of educators, like you said, doctors, even lawyers, just different type of careers that have come out from this area of Elmsford. Can you talk about, you know, your schooling coming up?
Oh, so, you know, obviously I went to Alexander Hamilton High School. I was chasing, you know, I had an older brother, an older sister, Kevin and Leslie. My younger brother is Brent. You know, Kevin is 8 years older than me. Leslie 7. Then I'm the middle child, and Brent was 8 years after me. So we're spread out. So I always looked up to Kevin, and he was always doing some prolific things, right? On the basketball court. He went to Iona College, and he was prolific there, a Hall of Famer there, scored over 1,700. One time he was the all-time leading scorer in Iona history. He played for Jim Valvano, and, so he's 18 years old, I'm 10 years old. Right. When he's 20, I'm 12. I'm in 6th grade. He's my idol, bro. So I always wanted to be like my brother. No, no ifs, ands, and buts about that. And he was the perfect role model, right? He went to college, he played ball, then he worked for IBM. He drove a BMW. He had a nice big apartment. He would share his apartment. I remember when I was 15 years old, he had his apartment. He gave me a set of keys, said you could come over anytime you want. Just, let me know before you come, but my house is your house. So I was able to just go and hang out at his house. He said, you don't need to be hanging out in the street. You don't need to do this. You need, you want to come over on a Friday night and hang out with your boys. This is what you could do. You don't need to do, any of that other stuff. Just come on over to my house. You're good to go. So that's a very influential and it showed me a certain path. And I wanted to recreate that. So ultimately, I went to Iona College, right? And pretty, out of Hamilton, went to Iona. I played football my first year there.
Okay.
Because I played football at Hamilton when we had a football team. Right. And that wasn't to my liking. Got my bell rung a few times, and decided that I'm gonna go in the gym and start playing some more ball. And I self-recruited, meaning I was calling coaches like what they do now, calling coaches. We didn't have the technology you had, so you literally just call the coaches up and start, making your case. And I ended up at a junior college, SUNY Canton. I was going to go to St. Lawrence University because the coach had recruited me. Two college Division III schools that had recruited me to play basketball out of high school were St. Lawrence University and Hamilton College, right? And Union College, actually, all upstate schools. I didn't really want to go up there when I first graduated, and I never thought I would go back to them. But when I decided that wanted to play basketball, I ended up at SUNY Canton because it was in the same town as St. Lawrence. And then the goal was to then leave there and go to St. Lawrence. And after being up in the North Country, north of the Adirondacks, I didn't like it there. Nothing. Too cold. I was in pastures, man. I played ball up there. I got a chance to play college basketball, met some great people, but I couldn't take it. I wanted to get back to New York. So I ended up transferring to Pace University. And at Pace University, I was just going to be a regular student, forget about basketball. I'm in the gym one day. I'm playing intramurals with the guys. Next thing I know, coach walks in, watches me play a few times, start coming to my intramural games, and he offers me a scholarship. So the following year, I'm back into playing basketball again for Pace University. So that was scholarship money involved with that. It was great.
That's a great story, Wayne. Talking about the athletic high school and college career. We get, some of the stuff I do know, but not everybody here gets to know that. I think a lot of people probably don't know that, which is great right now. And following that, you ended up starting your career, and most of your job career has been in parks and recreation. So let's start with the beginning of Greenberg Rec.
Oh, so let me just say this. So I worked out of college, I worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield. Okay. Right. And I worked for 8 years at Blue Cross, customer service, and then I was selling insurance. I left in 1992. So from 86 to 92, I was working at Blue Cross Blue Shield. Okay. So, and it just wasn't for me, right? Commuting down to the city. I love being in the city, was great. Hanging out after work was great, but work itself, I didn't like, right? And I just made a point at a certain time. I was like, okay, I'm this age. What am I going to really do? Because I don't like it here. I can't spend the rest of my life doing this. That led me to Greenberg, Johnny Jones,
Johnny Jones,
Jerry Burns hired
yes,
me.
yes, yes.
You know, but there was a year I was without work for about a year and a half. I didn't have. I basically was slinging newspapers. You know, the Reporter Dispatch at the time, now the Journal News. I was get up in the morning and distribute newspapers to make ends meet until I could get a job in recreation. That ended up being Greenberg Parks and Rec. I actually worked at the Theater Young Community Center, which was the Fairview Greenberg Community Center, part-time during that period as well.
Okay.
So that I could start building experience to get into Parks and Rec. I got hired, and my dream job, right, working at Mazzaro Park.
Can't get better than that, right?
Any better than that?
Let's stay right there real quick on Mazzaro Park for a second. A lot of things that you were a part of, and one of those pictures that we saw earlier, I think Dr. Engineer put them up. Talk about the basketball leagues, the 6'2" and under. Let's in the youth basketball as well.
We started with youth basketball. Karen Watts Cave was there. We started that. Johnny Jones, then Karen Watts Cave. We started the youth basketball program, and then we were traveling out to a 6 foot and under league out in Queens. We used to go out there, the fellas, right? And we were doing work out there. And then I was like, yo, we could do this here, right? And I have to say Nat Middleton was involved initially with getting some things started, and then and starting it. And then because I think he came to a couple games and was playing with us out there. And then a year or two later, I ended up getting involved with it, and my brother Brent. And we set up the 6'2" and under league, and it was at a time when there was a flood at the center. So there's certain things come together. You don't know that these variables are going to happen. It just that sometimes the timing is good. So the timing on this was that there was a flood at the center, and the lake behind the community center, not the lake, the little stream.
Yes.
And the floor was wrecked. So there was no summer league there. And at the time, there was no summer league in White Plains.
Wow. So this is...
So as a result, the convergence of everybody was coming to the 6'2" and under league.
What year was this? What year was this, Wayne?
They would say 6'2" and under. It was 6 foot and under, but we would let you go to 6'2", and truthfully, that mark was probably like 6'3".
What year, Wayne?
Oh, so that had to be it's mid 90s.
Okay.
Mid 90s, 96, 90, 95, 94, 96, somewhere in there. So then in that league, then, I think by the second year or third year, Mount Vernon shows up to play in the league. Ricky Stanley, great guy, from Mount Vernon, point guard. He's showing up with the Mount Vernon crew. He comes to the playoffs with Gus Williams.
Mm-hmm.
The Bronx comes up. We had the Gauchos are bringing teams up.
Wow.
It just all happened that one year. White Plains was tough. Elmsford with Wayne Penn, they were tough. Ossining had a team. They were unbelievable. The caliber of basketball was unbelievable at that time. Peekskill would come and they would bring a crew. So because there was no summer league that year, everybody converged on Mazzaro Park that summer. And it was, the beginning of a long run of successful summers of basketball. And, that kind of legendary status ran for a few years.
Which is still going on today, still with the youth, with the 16 and 13 and under now, which is great. I was a part of that, playing in those leagues as a kid growing up and watching those adult games when they still had the 6'2" and under. I saw that, wanting to be like, I want to be like those guys growing up playing basketball. Yeah. So that was great to see back then. Thank you, Wayne, for you and Nat and others to bring that in my life and the kids that I grew up with, the people that was around us in our community. That was beautiful. Thank you again.
Yeah, I've always tried to bring my organizational skills as best I could to the forefront. Brent was the real catalyst for getting all those teams there because Brent was the ball player.
Right.
I was a ball player, but I wasn't quite on Kevin or Brent's level. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But Brent had the connections, and then he reached out to Mount Vernon, and he reached out to ball players, and we were rolling. It was nice. It was nice, and I'm glad we were able to bring that to our community.
Now, you were able to work at Newcastle Parks and Rec, and then also White Plains Parks and Recreation, where you become the commissioner of White Plains Parks and Rec.
Yeah. So after I worked for Greenberg for about 8 years, I believe. 96 was when I was formally hired as a full timer, and I worked till 2004. I got a job in White Plains. In the midst of all that, Jerry Burns, referee Jerry has said to me, he said, and actually another guy, Dennis Hurley, they said, in talking to them, they were like, you have a future in this. You have a future in this. You really should consider continuing your schooling so that you can get ahead in this business. So I ended up going to Lehman College and getting my master's degree in actual recreation. A lot of people don't know you can get a degree in recreation, much less a master's degree. So I got a degree in Parks and Recreation Administration out of Lehman, and almost immediately, I'm gonna tell you, my career took off. I got a job immediately in White Plains, working as a rec supervisor. I was running involved with the league on Ferris Avenue at the time, amongst other things. And I worked there for 4 years as a rec supervisor, and then following that, I got a job working as the assistant superintendent of recreation for Newcastle, which is Chappaqua and parts of Ossining and Millwood. So I was there for 4 years to 2012, still cultivating relationships with people in various areas. And in 2012, the job at the city of White Plains opened up, and Mayor Roach hired me to become the commissioner, which I held until this past summer. So I had that job for 13 and a half years.
That's a nice career, Wayne, with Parks and Rec. Beautiful, because your name is known. People know what you've done. And I didn't even get into our part with Elmsford. You started Elmsford Rec when there wasn't even Elmsford Recreation in our little town. And you put that together because we needed our own identity.
I've always been involved with Elmsford no matter what I did. So even after I left, Greenberg, and I left Newcastle and White Plains, truthfully, the Elmsford Rec stuff started even when I was working for Blue Cross. So I was doing stuff there just on my own, asking for permission to use a gym, starting teams and doing that. So Elmsford has always been at the basis of, as a volunteer. Now I've tied in, over the years, Next Level has tied into it, where the Village of Elmsford has contracted with us to run their sports programs. So out of Next Level, which is really what I'm focusing my attention on now, we're building programs there in Elmsford through also the use of the Elmsford School District, which has been involved with, giving us space. So we're running a volleyball program now, basketball, volleyball, soccer, and we do tennis as well. But the volleyball program, I'm really proud of, man. I'm trying to really focus my attention on girls after spending all this time on boys. I start to see that there's a lot of opportunity for girls in various sports. So I'm trying to get everybody up on the same level playing field, offering activities. And, Elmsford has been very supportive in Next Level in helping us build the program.
And you have done a great job doing that. Wayne, I'm going to petition, as years come, they need to either name a street after you, something in Elmsford. No, I'm serious.
Usually you're dead when they do that. I don't want to be dead.
Well, listen, you don't got no, we're going to do it before that happens. God willing, we're going to do that. But it needs to be something, because you have done a lot for this community.
Thank you.
I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the story that you give us. Last couple minutes, real quick. Your hobbies. I know you like to bike. Me and Wayne, we bike together. We do a lot of bicycling together. I'm talking about riding bicycles, not them choppers. Yeah, we're riding bikes. We did the 40-mile New York City borough. We've done a lot of different bike runs all over Westchester. We do the two bridges,
Yep.
George Washington, the Tappan Zee, Cornwall Bridge. I mean, your hobbies, the hobbies that we've done are great. And then you like jazz. Can you talk a little bit about that for a minute, if you can?
Well, one of the things that I'm currently doing, I've always loved jazz. You know, they always used to say, you know, you're a young man with an old soul. You know, I still watch old movies, so I'm a throwback, right? But I've always loved jazz, and I tie that, you know, into the biking as well. It's just things that I've been doing since I was a youth. So, I'm still involved with the White Plains Jazz Festival, even though I retired from White Plains. They have hired me to continue to do consulting for that, and hire the artists for that. And then my bike adventures, man, is just I got to do something, man. You know, to stay active. And biking is my chosen path, and you know that's something that I love, and I'm glad that I could share it with you, Kurt.
Yeah, I appreciate
along
that.
with my wife, of course.
Yes. No, I appreciate that, Wayne. Thank you. Like, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be biking. You really put me onto it. You actually helped me get my first bike, which was beautiful. And I love it. I love it because it clears my mind. I feel like it's just like I don't know. I just feel free when I'm biking, not thinking about anything. And I appreciate, once again, you know, with basketball, with that, biking, with getting me a coaching job. Again, like I said, I really appreciate you, and I'm glad you told this story. One quick thing before we go. I'll never forget this. In Mazzaro Park, Wayne used to have kids, the youth, come out for free. Just bring a basketball to the park, and he would show you basic skills: dribbling, shooting, passing, layups, defense. He would, like, if you brought a ball, you coming out there, he gonna give you an hour or two, and he's gonna give you those basics that we all needed growing up. And again, I really appreciate that. I'll never forget that. That's something that, you know, I always remember. Mazzaro Park, you know, or anywhere with basketball that you did. So thank you again. I appreciate that, Wayne.
Thank you. All the praise goes to God who put that in my heart, and I just follow my passion and try to listen what God has put in my heart. That's what I tried to do my whole life. So thank you, Kurt.
No problem. Thank you. And again, I wish we had more time. And, you know, Wayne, we're going to talk another time. We're going to probably get more with the next level because, real quick, shout out the tryouts you got going on real quick.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, we got a lot, but we're doing 9U, 11U, 12U, 13U, 14U. So we have 5 teams. We have tryouts. Actually, the first set of tryouts are January 31st. I'm not sure when this is going to air, and then we have another set on February 14th. But if you go to nextlevelathletics.us is key, nextlevelathletics.us, all of the information about our programs and what we're doing is there.
Thank you, Wayne. And again, I appreciate you for being a guest here on episode 4. And we're going to close it out. You can stay on, Wayne. To everybody who's watching and listening, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed this journey that we've heard from Mr. Wayne Bass. All right. He's a mentor. He is a great person. He's a helper. You know, he gives. He is, like I said, he is everything to Elmsford and to the community of either Greenburgh and White Plains as well. So thank you again. You've watched and listened to another great edition of the Kurt Social Network podcast. All right. We'll see you soon. Peace, love. You already know.
Number one fan.